Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Health Podcast with my co-host, David Ortega. And today we have a special guest, which I'm so excited to hear more about his story. And that is Adrian. And he's a success mindset coach, consultant, he's a public speaker and a podcaster as well. So over the last number of years, he has studied extensively into how the mind works, why people do what they do, and also why they don't do what they know they should do. So that's very interesting. Can't wait to hear about some tips around that. So essentially his goal is to help as many people as possible to do what they want to do and when they want to do it, wherever and whoever they want to do it. So Adrian coaches people primarily using the Thinking into Results program, which was developed by the renowned personal and business development coach Bob Proctor. I love his books, and this program is the best result of over 50 years of Bob's studies into success and the human mind. And Adrian, along with many other PG consultants all around the world, have helped thousands of people to get out of their own way and achieve the results that they previously never even dreamed about, all through the power of understanding. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into that, because, it's so many good things, and I have so many questions, especially looking at the aspect of quantum leaping and streamlining our thinking, which is incredible. So tell us more, Adrian.
Cool. Thanks, Natasha, and thanks, David. It's lovely to be here this evening with you guys. So thank you very much for having me. It's a long story, Natasha and David, and it's not really a long story either. You know, I've always been interested in self-actualization. Is something that I learned during my time in college, and I said, okay, well, that's for those who don't know, that's becoming all that you can be. Yeah, and that sort of concept was really interesting to me, and I suppose I like an awful lot of people, you go through difficult times in your life, or challenges, and you go, well, how do I overcome them? And for some people like myself, I would call myself a very curious person. I like to understand how things work, and if I understand how something works, then I can change it, tweak it, fix it, whatever needs to happen. But I need to understand first, at least the minimum amount of how it works. I never would ever claim to understand everything. But yeah, that's so that came about through my own trying to fix my own problems and issues. And Natasha really was where I first got into the Thinking into Results program itself, and into Bob Proctor. In fact, I first came across Bob Proctor in the little book, The Secret, and that was a complete accident, really. I was in Dublin Airport, and I was preparing for a flight at what I would call stupid o'clock in the morning. So I was there at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to sort of fly over somewhere, I can't remember where it was, and I picked up a book, and at the time, one of my favorite movies was the Da Vinci Code. And I had seen that there was a little book to go along with the Da Vinci Code, which was to explain the secret of the Da Vinci Code. So I picked up this book that was called The Secret, thinking that it was something to do with the Da Vinci Code, only to find out later that it had nothing to do with the Da Vinci Code, but was way more powerful than that. And I suppose that was my first step along the sort of personal development, personal growth, what I do now, basically.
Great. I love the idea of understanding things before attempting to first to explain to others, then to apply it in your own life, because I am very similar in that way. I like to understand topics and things before I speak about them, or before I even try it in myself. And I learn by this trial and error. So I first experiment in myself, and then I do the things. So what was that process for you of experimenting with this idea and then applying it? Which were the first trial and errors that you experience?
Great question. So what you said there is 100% true about learning through trial and error, and I wish everybody would sort of just take a second to actually let that go on board, because when we're babies, when we're kids, we learn to walk by falling down. Everything that we learn to do, or everything that we're able to do proficiently now as adults, we learned by not being able to do it. And so a lot of people believe and give up on things when they're not able to do things perfectly the first time that they try it. And so for that's where the understanding piece comes into it. I always say it, like if I want a mechanic to fix the engine in my car, for example, he probably knows an awful lot more about how the engine works than I do, so he understands it better, so he's able to fix it, whereas I would stand there with the bonnet open staring at it going, yeah, it looks like an engine, but I don't know what else is going to happen. So I suppose when it comes to my own, the first things that I tried to figure out was, like I said, I was quite curious. I have, but when I first got into Bob Proctor, Bob's advice was, or Bob's story was that he said he wasn't very academically inclined. He didn't spend a whole lot of time in school. And it was by mutual decision that they decided not to continue in school. Whereas I was the other way around. I went all the way in school. All the way, what we call in Ireland, through second level, then into third level, and then pursuing, further education after that again. And for me, I couldn't figure out how some people that I knew who hadn't gone all the way in school the same way, hadn't done what I was supposed to do, and yet they were on the outside way more successful than I was. And so I wanted to try and understand why that was. And that's really what I came about through the Thinking into Results program, and by listening and studying Bob's material, really. And it's not just Bob, because he's drawn on, he's studied himself for 50 or 60 years before he passed, but he drew on material from people who came before him. And yeah, so that understanding of why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted was a key sort of push for me to learn more. And to try different things. In fact, there was one sentence that somebody said to me at one stage, and it sort of struck me like lightning. They said, well, your way is not working, and try mine. It was so simple. I mean, here was a person who was doing the sort of things that I wanted to be doing. Yeah. And she was having success with it, and she was getting the results that I wanted, and she was doing it her way. And she said, well, your way is obviously not working, so try mine. So
I love that. Simplicity is amazing. So I think we've three very curious people here, because like my whole reason is why as well. If I could understand, even I remember as a child, like if my mom said, you can't do that, and I'd be like, watch me, unless you told me why. And if the why made sense to me, then I'd be like, okay. But since then, I've grown up. I mean, I grew up in South Africa, and we have many cultures, many religions, and our belief systems I always knew quite important, because I've always believed that is the reason why we do things, is because we believe in it one way or another. And it's been so interesting in my own personal journey in finding out, why is that limitation there? Why is that behavior there? Where did it stem from? And how can I change it moving on? And I think a framework like Bob Proctor that has already gone through all of that, and NLP, all sorts of other things as well. My training is more from the craniosacral therapy aspect of it, and then I go very much into the spiritual side of it, which is the Akashic Records, which is looking at the soul's blueprint, which comes in quite nicely, but sometimes it doesn't have those techniques. It's like why is this here? Why is this showing up for me? And the other question is looking at it and how is it working for me, or is it in that way? So I love that you turn around going, we know what we have to do, but why aren't we doing it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're familiar, obviously. I was with the way that Bob talks, and look at for me, I love the simplicity of it. You said you love simplicity. My favorite thing is the KISS principle, and which is why. Have you ever come across the stick man figure? How Bob uses the stick man? No.
No.
Let me see. I don't know if this will come across in the camera. This is you, yeah, and this is me, and this is all of us. Okay, so this big circle up at the top we call the mind, and this was supposed to be a smaller circle, but the circle below is the body. The body is an instrument of the mind. The body does exactly what the mind tells it to do, and the way that you see the way the mind is split in two, you've got basically two parts. I know technically there's probably more to it than that, but again, just to keep it simple so that everybody can get the message. You've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Your programming, yeah. If you think of yourself as a computer, or you think of yourself as your phone, for example, it's a piece of hardware that's programmed to do things in a certain way. And that's exactly what your subconscious mind is. That's where all that programming lives. And so a lot of the programming that you have has taken, no matter what age you are, has been programmed the whole way throughout your entire life, that you act or react in certain ways. And a lot of it actually doesn't even come from you or your parents or their parents or their parents, and it comes generation after generation, and you're just programmed to do certain things in certain ways, and you're programmed to like certain foods, etc., and cultures are exactly that. They're a group programming, between millions of people. One of the funniest stories, and I can't remember who said it, was about there was a young woman, her mother and her grandmother, and they were coming around to the young woman's house for dinner. And she said, you know what, I'm going to cook a leg of lamb. We like lamb in our family. We're going to cook a leg of lamb. And so she takes the leg and she cuts the end off the leg of lamb and puts it into the oven and starts cooking it. And the husband was like, well, that's an awful waste. Why have you cut that bit off? And she goes, I don't know why I cut it off. I just always cut it off because my mum always cut it off. And she goes, okay, well, Mum, why have I cut this off? Or why did you cut it off? And she goes, well, I'm not sure either. It's just that my mom used to always cut it off. So they go to the grandmother and go, well, why did you always cut the end off the leg of lamb like that? She goes, well, my oven was quite small. And in order to get the leg to fit in it, I had to cut the end off of it. So here you have 3 generations later, people doing the exact same things, not knowing why they're doing it, because somebody's oven was too small to start off with. And I think it's a funny story, but it's a good example of these subconscious programmings that we have within us, and that we do things in a certain way and get certain results because of them. And once we understand what's going on, that we have these programs, then we can begin to unravel it and go, well, okay, now I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then I can change it.
And how do you approach people that have this dilemma in their own mind where they know they have this program and they know that they are sabotaging themselves, but they don't seem to pick up I don't know how to call it, the spark or the moment where this program is going upside and it's going to be manifested and they can stop it? How do you tell people to start becoming more aware, let's say?
Good question. Okay, so the first thing I look at is people's results. Okay, if you're happy with the results that you're getting, brilliant. Yeah, you have paradigms, you have programs that are serving you, and that you're able to get what it is that you want. So it's only really, I believe, when people are sort of discontented or they're not happy with the results that they're getting, that they begin to try and figure out what's going on. Why are they not getting what it is that they want? So I draw this, my kids call it Daddy's Fat Stick Man, and I've been drawing it for them since they were babies. We have the big circle at the top, the little circle, and then you have your little oar over here for your results. And your thoughts that you think in your conscious mind influence the beliefs, the programs that you have in your subconscious mind, which controls what the body does, which then gives you the results that you get. And what I found is you have to go back to the root cause. So you have to go back to how you're thinking, to that conscious thought, because that's what you can control. And an awful lot of time people believe or think that there are circumstances outside of themselves that are controlling what it is that they're doing, and it's not really the case. For the most part, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, and most of the time we're not consciously aware of it, we're dictating the results that we're getting. So for me, something that again sort of really hit home for me when I started studying this was the conscious mind has the ability to accept and reject. You can either accept the thought that comes into you, own it, believe it, and pass it over into the subconscious mind, where then it forms part of your programming. Or you can go, do you know what? No, I don't believe that. That's not. I don't want to think that thought. And you go bye-bye, and you reject it. You push it out. And when I first came across that, I said to myself, you know what? I want to tell every teenager in the country that they have that superpower, that they have the ability. They don't have to believe the things that people say about them or the negative thoughts that come into their minds. Because you know what? We think something like 75, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day. We do a lot of thinking. But most of it is the exact same thinking that we have the day before, and the exact same as the day before, and the exact same as the day before. And we keep thinking these thoughts over and over and over and over again. And most of them are negative as well. So having that ability, and I'm sorry I've gone off on a tangent, David, a little bit, but having that ability to reject those thoughts is a superpower that I wish more people understood and believed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, 100% as well. It's and my mom always said to us, like, your mind controls your body in all forms. It was quite interesting in that fact. But it's like you were saying, how do we change those loops? And I'll give you an example, because for me, there was a stage where I was probably hitting close to burnout. I was in the corporate world at that time. Like, I'd spend most of my night in those loops of trying to rehash, trying to find solutions. I suppose that overthinking aspect of things. And, when we overthink things, we start to see things that aren't there, and then we start to believe that they're there, right? So, like, I did quite a lot, like, not having met the work of Bob Proctor yet or anybody else. I did a lot of kind of like affirmation work to try and interrupt these. Like, I recorded the affirmations in my own voice and then listened to it. And I created, like, trying to reprogram my brain in different ways, or stopping those thoughts like in their tracks, or talking to them like it was like somebody that was invading my mind. What techniques do you have that you can give people to interrupt those thoughts? Because that, and then there's the second part of that question. I'm in two minds. So I think therapy works, but I think if we continue to talk about our problems over and over and over again, we actually strengthen those neural pathways, right? So it's like, what do we do about that after that, right? So like, I think there's space for all therapies, but how do you tackle it from that perspective?
I'm a big believer in affirmations. And I'm a huge believer in meditation. And meditation is not something that comes easily or something that comes naturally. Especially, Natasha, if you're somebody who has that tendency to really sort of double down on the thoughts and keep going and keep going and keep going. So guided meditation is something that I use personally. Because then that removes the thinking bit. And then I'm just into the listening. I mean, what you said about doing affirmations, recording them, and playing them back to yourself is perfect. You know, that's you talking to you in your own voice directly into your subconscious mind. That's phenomenal. I do that. I have done that. I sort of go from doing it to not doing it. I'm these let's say the paradigms. I talk an awful lot about how to reprogram yourself, and an awful lot of that is in the exact same way as what you got the original paradigm in the first place, which is true constant spaced repetition. And that's by listening to the same thing over and over again, writing the same thing over and over again, saying the same thing over and over again. I mean, if you look at any religion around the world, that's exactly how they indoctrinate new people into the religion, is by that constant spaced repetition. You know, stand up, kneel down, pray, say this, and it's using all the different ways that we learn things through kinesthetic learning, from touching things to auditory and then to listening. So it's in exactly that same way. But for me, guided meditation is a big thing. I don't use anything fancy to do it. I use YouTube. I really resonate with Bob. So Bob has quite a few guided meditations on our YouTube. One of them is one that he did with Vishnu Lakhani, I think, from Mind Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mind Valley, yeah. He's awesome as well. He's
absolutely, brilliant. Yeah, amazing. And he used to work with Bob also, which was cool. It's a small world, but yeah, those sort of things are key. Just to come back on the point about that you made about therapy, I agree with you. Sometimes, and this is my own belief, so please don't anybody.
It's the same as mine as well.
Yeah. Again, in sort of the vein of keeping things simple, there was a brilliant discussion I came across. I don't know if you know a lady called Mary Morrissey. She used to work with Bob years ago, and there was a conversation that they had about forgiveness. And part of that was there was a lady who had recently divorced her husband or broken up with her husband, and her therapist said to her, you know, you're going to need at least 6 months to really get, you know, in touch with your feelings, to really feel them and let them go deep into you, etc. And then she said that she sat down with Bob, and and classic Bob, he said, well, you could do that, you know, or you could do something more interesting. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, well, what are you passionate about? What do you love doing? And she ended up founding a what's it called? A charity, and building houses for people in disadvantaged areas around the world. And yes, absolutely, when something happens, you need to take care of yourself, and it's okay to feel the emotions. But I'm a big believer in you're in control. If you allow the emotions to take over and take control of you, then you're not thinking. You're just reacting. And so, yeah, it's okay to allow emotions. I'm an emotional person too, but I believe there's a time when you need to take control over the emotions.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Sorry, it's my own. I tend to go off a little bit from time to time.
That's okay.
We do too, so don't worry. You are in the right place with us.
You're in good company.
Yeah, cool. I'm going off a little bit more. Is my question now that, well, it's a personal, let's say, experience, and it's also a question. I usually, when I get in those loops, what I do and what I recommend also to my clients is, when you feel that repetitive pattern and link, you can just ask a question: what am I thinking? And the next question is, why am I thinking that? And who is this thought from? Because many times it's not even yours, as you mentioned before. It's just someone repeating the message, or it's let's say a remix of the message between your parents, grandparents, and teachers and friends and you. no, that you added a little bit. So by doing that, what kind of, let's say, simple and quick strategies do you use when people are already detecting these patterns, but they want to make them shift into the new pattern that you are trying to implement?
Okay. As the one and only Wayne Dyer said, when you change how you look at things, what you look at changes. And sometimes something as simple as getting up out of your chair and sitting on the other side of the room is enough to break that pattern. Yeah. It's a technique that I use quite often because in different parts of what I do, I can be incredibly focused for a long period of time. And then sometimes you can't solve a problem. Or you can't see the next step. And for me, very often, it can just be something as simple as that. You can't see it, but there's a couch over here. And sometimes I'll just go and I'll sit on the couch and look at my desk, and when I'm looking at it from a different angle, that can quite often just break it. Because if you are sitting in the one position, let's say, David, and you recognize that this is what's coming, I can't remember his name. Maxwell was the surname. He wrote a book called The Magic of Thinking Big, or something about thinking big. John C. Maxwell, maybe.
Yes.
And he likened the subconscious mind to a filing cabinet. Yeah. And whenever you come up against something, he said, it's like you go to that filing cabinet, you open the drawer and you take out the file marked whatever that problem is that you're doing, and then you run that same program again, so you get the same result as what you previously got. So once you this is why when I talk to people, I always say understanding is the key to success. Once you understand what's happening, and you understand the relationship between the outside world, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, your body, and the results, then you can recognize the triggers, like you said, and then you can change it. Yeah. The actual technique that you use, I think, is secondary to the understanding of what is actually happening. I smoked for years, and I gave up when my wife was pregnant with my eldest daughter. And many techniques have been tried over the years, from chewing gums to peanut M&Ms to other things, and was just replacing one habit with another. And it wasn't really until I had that strong why, let's say, and the image in my mind of what in this case, what I didn't want to be. But what I've subsequently learned since then is that I want to focus on what it is that I do want to be, not what I don't want to be. And so at the time I was saying because there was somebody who worked in the place where I was, and he was maybe 10 or 15 years older than me, and he looked 30 or 40 years older than me because he was a heavy smoker. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. When my kid is a teenager, I don't want to be that guy. So now what I say to myself is I want to be fit and healthy at 50 or whatever it is. Not that I don't want to be that guy, but it worked at that time in order to kick the habit. But again, it was just sort of, let's say, a little bit of an understanding of that I needed a clear reason. What I've come to understand as being a burning desire, according to Napoleon Hill, in order to actually change the behavior and get emotionally connected with that in order to really sort of drive it home.
That's amazing, and I completely agree. And that's exactly how I gave up smoking as well. I was a complete creature of habit. Like, it really didn't matter. I used to envy these people that would be like, I smoked so much last night, I'm not going to smoke today. And I'm like, if you can stop for one day, why can't you just stop forever? Like, what's wrong? But that's important, that finding out the why. There's so much to unpack there, but I want to go back a little bit to the forgiveness aspect of it, because I find the forgiveness aspect, and it's almost kind of like, how do we get to that space of radical forgiveness? Because when I started on this journey of learning about my patterns, when I recognized a pattern, I used to beat myself up so badly. I'd be like, oh my goodness, how could you have done that? You know, you're such a horrible blah, 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 blah. I'm not even going to repeat those words anymore. Like, and I'd go into this whole kind of like, you know, in Portuguese, you say like beat up the blind person, you know, they're already like suffering and you're going to go beat them up a little bit more, you know, and this is us. It's like, and then I started to realize that it was just like, you know what, sometimes these things serve us until they don't anymore. And if they've come into a space of awareness, it's because they're ready to be released. So I ended up kind of like going, okay, I've been doing that. Like I'm taking that responsibility for like, okay, if having to forgive or, you know, to say sorry to somebody else and in that understanding. But then I ended up drawing a line and I thought, you know what matters is how I change now, how I respond now, moving forward. And making those changes. And now after doing that so many times, I actually end up looking at it from a place of curiosity in the sense of like, why am I doing this? Like, where am I stuck? Like, let's dig into it and see where does it stem from. And looking at patterns. So I have my mom that lives with me, and I have like my daughters. So we have these generations and I'm like, how does it present in these 3 generations? You know, and how do we change them? Which is beautiful. But my question for you is, how do we help people into that space of radical self-forgiveness and forgiveness for other people? Because I know that when we're jumping into forgiveness, it doesn't excuse anything, but it releases us from being attached to that person, that circumstance, that situation, that paradigm. So how do you have any other techniques that would help people in that space of forgiving oneself?
Yeah. Yes, again, stuff that I've learned through Bob and others, but I love this story. Again, I think it was Mary Morrissey. Some stories I hear and they just stick with me forever, and I've repeated this one to I don't know how many people. It says, imagine this. So you're annoyed with somebody. Somebody has wronged you, and you're annoyed with them. It's sort of like you put your hand into the fire and you take out a burning hot coal, and you're saying to yourself, well, I'm going to throw this at this person who's annoyed me. I'm going to throw it at this person who's upset me, and I'm waiting and I'm holding on to it, and I hold on and I hold on and I hold on, and that person is, you know, going about their business, and they're oblivious to the fact that you're holding on to this coal, going to throw it at them. So the only person who's getting hurt at that time is you. Yeah? So you're burning yourself and you're hurting yourself by holding on to the resentment or the negative feeling or anything like that you have towards somebody else. And again, with my process of keeping it simple, it's the understanding that that's what's happening when you hold on to that resentment is when you're able to change it, is when you're able to fix it. And for me personally, one of I love this technique of writing letters to people. There's a huge psychological connection between you, a pen, and a piece of paper, and you write off to so-and-so, dear so-and-so. I was incredibly annoyed and upset when you did XYZ. It made me feel XYZ. Or whatever the case may be. And then at the end of it, you go, you know what, I forgive you completely. Yeah. And then you take the letter and you burn it. Yeah. So that's a symbol of really letting go. Because what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is to let go of something completely, to abandon it. You're not holding on to that hot coal in your hand anymore that's burning you, that's hurting you, and you just let it go. You know, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt when somebody does something to you, but think about the reason why you are forgiving somebody is as much, if not more so, for you, than for them. Yeah. Because if you go back to the sort of the coal analogy, if you're holding on to that coal and it's burning in your hand the whole time, and as soon as you let it go, you stop burning. Yeah. And it's the same thing about the forgiveness. When you are able to actually let go of that resentment, let go of that negative feelings completely and abandon it, it stops to have any sort of control over you. So that's my favorite technique is that one. I've used it many times. People say, well, what about when if I need to forgive myself? So, well, write yourself a letter.
Yeah.
Again, you're not sending this letter to anybody. I was talking to somebody the other day, actually, who said they held on to a letter for quite a long time, until they were ready to burn it. But I would encourage you to write it and burn it. I did it with my wife a few years ago. We had a fire pit at the back of the house, and we both wrote the letters that we needed to write, and we put them into the fire, and we watched the embers go up in the air, and that was it. It was gone. Yeah.
It is quite a beautiful technique.
I love it. I love it. And you might need to do it a few times.
Yeah.
It might take a whole series of letters until you manage to actually let it go. But that's forgiveness is a beautiful thing, because you really damage yourself and you hurt yourself when you hold on to that. As I say, the other person is normally just wandering around completely oblivious to the fact that they've done anything to you most of the time. Most of the time,
and because it's done without intention, right? A lot of the times, right? Which is The other part of forgiveness, what I've been playing around with is have you heard of the Ho'oponopono prayer?
Pardon? The
Ho'oponopono prayer? No. It's a Hawaiian prayer. There's a psychologist who joined a ward of people that were in for psychological issues, and what he did was the patients were like very agitated. The staff were always getting beaten up, and they're very unhappy. And this is just very, very kind of like lightly over it. So I'm sure there's like a bigger story. And what he did was he got the patient's files, and he'd say a Ho'oponopono prayer, which is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And he'd say that over each and every file. He didn't actually get to see people. And their behavior started to change. And he did that with every single file. And that changed completely the atmosphere. It calmed everything down. It was like absolutely incredible. That's just the Coles notes, but that is also like, and then adding in kind of like, I am safe, you are safe, or whatever it is that needs to be put in there. I also found that to be a great technique to work with. But writing the letter is definitely that physical thing of seeing him burn is quite incredible.
I mean, you've given me something to research.
Yes.
Another thing that I came across quite recently, Mel Robbins.
Yes, she's amazing.
The Let Them Theory. I got the audio book, and my wife and I listened to it in the car when we're driving, and it's amazing. The two parts to it: the Let Them and then Let Me. But she's such an amazing author to and even when she reads it, to listen to, so relatable, and it's such a simple technique, Yeah.
The 5-second rule one is good as well. And I'll do it right now.
We have that if you drop something on the floor. You have 5 seconds to pick it back up again.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different, but it's same.
And you mentioned two things I think I want to pick up from the different parts that you have shared. One is this forgiveness that we are talking about, and I completely agree. I did most of my last year, I did that work in a very deep way with my father. And I think I let go a lot of burden, a lot of weight around me. And it made me feel really light this year. And
congratulations.
Thank you. It was a hard work. And the next question is, when we forgive, we suddenly let go this weight, and we find ourselves in a new position where we don't have excuses on who to blame and what to do with who we are, because we lose part of our identity because it's part of the excuse that we use many times to justify certain behaviors, or certain actions. And the identity is, I think, is directly linked to the way we succeed in life. So how do you help people, when they move from this forgiveness state, they, let's say they are here, they move up to here, and in this place they don't know who they are now, and now they need to find direction to go into the succeeding part.
So it's a choice from there, David, isn't it? You get to choose who it is that you want to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Dr. Maxwell Maltz is another great book. The Psycho-Cybernetics explains an awful lot about the self-image. And then there's another book called Mistaken Identity. Sorry, you can't see it, but my bookshelf behind me is a good friend of mine, Doug Dane, wrote this book, Mistaken Identity. And it's all about choosing your identity, because once you get rid of that. And I like what you said, because I really dislike in some ways labels, and the labels that we put on ourselves in particular, because that gives us the excuse, as you said, to be a certain way. So one of the labels that a lot of people use quite often is sort of the victim label, the poor me way of looking at life. And you're right, once you get rid of, and you are able to get rid of that label from yourself, you are left in the area of having complete freedom and power to choose who it is that you want to be. Yeah. And then all you got to do is decide, because that's it at the core. That's what we have to do, is decide who it is that we want to be. Yeah. For a lot of our life, and for our young life in particular, we are the person who our parents want us to be. Yeah. But when we reach a certain age and we reach adulthood, then yes, we if we think about it and we understand what's going on, we get to have this wonderful choice of deciding who it is that we want to be. And it can be daunting in a lot of ways to have that, because you're going, well, I don't know. I've lived with this for so long, this label of myself for so long. How do I get to choose who I want to be? And again, it's quite a simple technique in some ways, and quite not so simple in another way. I know when my wife and I sat down to do that with her, she found it very difficult. I still find it difficult at times, but it's about deciding what it is that you want, and writing a big long list of all the things that you want. Yeah, no matter how small they are or how silly they may seem, if it's something that you want, it goes on the list. And then you sit with that list, and then you narrow it down, and you half that list. Okay, so some of the things, maybe being an astronaut at my age is not really realistic anymore. So then we get down to the core of what it is that the things that you really want. And then once you've decided what it is, and again, I know I oversimplify things sometimes, but it's about taking the steps towards being that person. I was listening to one of your other podcasts earlier on, and somebody said, you fake it till you make it. Yeah. I did an interview with a lovely lady called Alpa last month for my own podcast, and she said she took that fake it till you make it and changed it to fate it till you make it. Yeah.
I like that.
You begin to believe in yourself, that you are the person that you are trying to be. Yeah. Or that you want to be. And I love that. I asked her for permission. Can I use that one? Can I? Because I think it's brilliant. But yes, that you begin to you've cast off the old label. Yeah. And it's time to not create a new label, but to design on purpose the person that you want to be, and that you understand and you believe that you have that ability to choose the person that you want to be.
I was reminded of a movie, an old movie from Superman, that is the third part of the Christopher Reeve, let's say, series, where he fights with the bad Superman, and
Mm-hmm.
he becomes this bad person, and then they start fighting, and he suddenly he doesn't have the same powers that the other one has. I think that's the inner fight that we are having, every one of us, with this past life that we are using as an excuse, and that we need to let go with the forgiveness part. That's our dark side, our shadow. And then it comes the light. It comes the new Superman, the new one that remasters himself, and then he envisions. And I think that what you mentioned is extremely important. Envision the person that we want to be, and let's say fall in love with that person so much as to make it your idol, your, I don't know, your figure, your action to pursue, no? And you can even play with these superpowers because it's just in imagination, no?
Yeah. You're an analogy that I love. I love this analogy is if you think of your life as a movie, yeah, who's the star of your life? Yeah. Who's the main character? You are. Yeah. So as most of us, not most of us, a lot of people would act as like a supporting actor in their own movie, whereas they should be the star of their own movie. And as the star of your own movie, you get to choose exactly what happens to you. You get to choose the plot. You get to choose everything. You get to design it, and that's the power. That's the power that we have. To design our own lives. We're here to enjoy ourselves. You know, life is supposed to be fun. We're not here to get as comfortably from birth to death as possible. We're here to for an adventure. This is my belief anyway. Again, I'm probably not the most religious person in the world, but I do believe that we're in spirituality, and that we choose to be here, and that we've decided to come here to have some fun and to experience the human condition, and you know, sitting in a cubicle working from 9 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. in the evening, or 7 or 8 or 9, whatever. That's not fun. You know, fun is being out there and doing things and trying new things and learning new things and growing. Yeah. So yeah.
I completely agree. And it's almost kind of like, the thing is that when we do set those goals, everything that is not that in our life starts to fall away. Which is quite interesting, because then you start looking at all those constructs, all those subconscious ideas that come up to play. Like recently, I've gone back into corporate in trying to help businesses become more conscious. And all of a sudden, stepping into this leadership kind of like role once more, I like everything up against me has just been like, oh, you can't do that. Why can you do it? Like, who are you? Like, and it's like, it's all these limitations have all of a sudden started to, and I'm like, where is it coming from? How do I dig deeper? So it's quite fascinating that when we do set that goal, anything that's not that comes up to be released. And how do we manage that journey in a way that is a little bit more easy, more graceful? I mean, because we make it difficult. I mean, we give meaning to life. Life has no meaning but the meaning we give to it. So how do we do that gracefully? How do we fast track that?
That's a really good question. I suppose I like what you say, when we focus on what it is that we actually want to achieve, everything that's not that falls away. Because those man-made rules or those man-made conditions of your desk has to look in this way, and you can't have that picture there, and you can't look at your phone between this time and this time, and all those sort of things are self-imposed. Well, not self-imposed, but imposed by somebody who's decided this is how we need to control people. That's a really tough one, Natasha, on how to go about changing it. Can we
use the same analogy of kind of like that kind of like those does the limitations of the past become that hot coal again and you just need to let go of, right? Because they're just holding you back, or, it's one of those things. I've tried to get like really curious as to where did this come from? Why? And I mean, David and I've been doing some work, and I'm like, and then I do some work in the Akashic into finding out what is in that subconscious mind that needs to be released or dealt with or healed or forgiven, or gratitude for that, that comes into play. And literally, it's like it can happen overnight. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I had an understanding of where limitation was, and I processed at 3:00 in the morning. So literally, like I had a meeting maybe 2 months ago, wasn't ready for that meeting. That possibility was there, and that made me go, oh, this is scary. Mm. And then in 2 months I did all the work, and then eventually there was just kind of like this turning point of like, this is where it started. Right. And overnight processing that. And I had a meeting with the same person the next day, and it completely shifted into that. I'm giving you admin rights to this. I'm going to, endorse you in X, Y, and Z. And nothing had changed between, like, I had changed. So that completely shifted. But it's, do we just have to be patient? And again, see it as a journey, as an excitement with, okay, what else is coming up for me? Where is that limitation? And then once you see it, it's like that hot cold. It's like, drop it, let it go. It's not there anymore.
Seeing things as a journey, Natasha, I think is we get incredibly impatient, don't we? And especially in the corporate world, everything has to be done yesterday. Because I suppose that's a cultural paradigm that is passed down from the industrial age, and that's how people believe that business is supposed to be. I find a lot of these sort of limitations, I think they come down to, again, labels is one thing.
Yeah.
So when we label somebody as being in charge of X, Y, Z, and a lot of people love to have this locus of control that I'm in charge of this, and I'm going to exercise all of the authority that I have in this box, and I'm going to take care, and don't anybody dare step out of it, or I'm going to put them back into the box again. Mm-hmm. And I believe it comes from a lack mindset. People used to look at me a little bit funny I worked for a long time in the car rental industry, and I was sitting there and I'd be looking out at all the different car parks, and there's hundreds and maybe thousands of people, and they're all picking up the cars up at Dublin Airport, and I used to always believe that, hey, there's enough business out there for all of us, We don't need to be chasing the rate down. We don't need to get every single booking. We will get our fair share if we price appropriately, and if we give good service, and we put ourselves out there. There is enough business out there for everybody, But the lack mindset or is more along the lines of, I need to get everything, and I need to control it, and I need to hold on to it, and I can't dare let it go or let anybody else get a bit of what I have. And unfortunately what happens with that is you tend to lose what you're trying to hold on to so tightly. When you think about people who have an abundance mindset, it's like things just flow to them without any apparent problem whatsoever. It's just everything is easy. Life is easy. And what's her Esther Hicks? I love Esther. I think she's phenomenal, and I love the concept that she talked about with the being in flow, being in the sort of like in the river, and you're just you're paddling along with the river, and it's so much easier than trying to paddle upstream. You just sort of let it take you where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
What has helped me to do that, what you were mentioning, Natasha, and merge with what Adrian is saying, I think is rituals. For me, having small pieces of rituals, small pieces of habits, let's say, that support the goal and support the journey, those little pieces are the ones that are giving you the, let's say, the percentage of identity that you need in order to build the whole person that you want to become, and attaching more meaning and value to each of these small things that we do every day, and not, let's say, victimizing ourselves with failing one time or failing two times. It's the key aspect of supporting the journey, no?
Yeah. Let me ask a question, David. Do you have a goal that you're working towards?
Yes.
Yes. Is it written down?
Yes.
Do you look at it often?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So those habits, you're ahead of probably 98-99% of the population, when it comes to that, because that's what you're reinforcing to yourself all the time. And as I sit here, I can see on the door over there my vision board for this year, the things that I want to try and achieve. And it's the exact same way. You're reinforcing to yourself all the time the person that you want to become, and you're not. I don't like the word tricking, but you're telling your subconscious mind that you are that person. Yeah. And when you are that person, well, then you're in harmony with it. And we all know about vibration, and that you begin to then attract the things that it is that you want to attract into your life by being that person. But step one is having a goal. Step two is writing it down. Step three is actually saying it out loud to yourself every morning, every evening, or as often as you possibly can. And then it's going to happen. It's like day turns to night and night turns to day. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How can we summarize this journey that we have launched into this episode, and give people three steps that they can follow so that they can understand what is success for them?
Okay. Well, firstly, I can never determine what success is for them. Success is an individual thing for everybody. What's his name? Earl Nightingale, in The Stranger's Secret. Again, it's a little book. I love it. I have the audiobook. I listen to it, and he says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Okay, the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And who determines whether the ideal is worthy is you. So you choose what it is that you want to achieve. Anybody who is doing what it is that they want to do is a success. Yeah. As long as as you're working towards it, success isn't the actual attainment of it. It's that progressive realization. It's taking the steps towards the goal that you're working towards. And once you get there, then obviously you come up with a bigger and a bolder and a better goal in order to go the next time around. So three steps for me is like I said earlier on, you determine your goal, what it is that you want to work towards. You write it down, and you repeat it to yourself over and over again. And it's really, Bob used to always say it's really simple. What did he say? Something along the lines of, the steps are really simple, but it's not easy. In order to try and continue to rewrite these paradigms, because your old paradigms are so strong and will pull you back. Yeah. And you can't ever change those paradigms. What you got to do is you got to write stronger paradigms in your subconscious mind that will bring you in the direction that you want to go. Okay.
Thank you.
So that's where the understanding comes in. My favorite thing is your thoughts control your beliefs control your actions, and your actions control your results. It's a very simple sort of progression to understand. Your thoughts control your beliefs control your actions, and your actions control your results.
Yeah. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Tasha, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we encourage you to interact with us, to subscribe to our channels, to pass on this episode if you find it interesting, and if you find that can help a lot of people to find their own journey and their own let's say, ritual towards success. And we will listen to each other on our next episode. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Natasha.